Hi, I'm Seth Early, CEO of Early Information Science, and I wanted to talk about digital transformation. It's a little bit of a buzzword, but every organization realizes that what they need to do is they need to digitize everything, right? In the old days, it was taking paper out of the process. Now it's every aspect of customer interaction and all of the upstream processes that require an end-to-end digital integration. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what's required in order to build this as a roadmap. So what you see here in front of you is a way of looking at the different elements for digital transformation. Certainly everyone talks about people, process, technology, content, and data. We're going to be broadly defining content to include data. And what you have to do in any of these situations is start off with, well, where are you today? What's your current state? What's your current level of maturity? We need to start to define the vision for where we're going. What is required by the industry? What's required by our competitors? What are our customer expectations around our particular market and set of processes? After we define the future vision, we have a view of what those gaps are in these different areas. And then finally, we can start to lay out the process to get there. So I'm going to walk through each of these so that you can have a sense of the components and how this can be accomplished in a reasonable time frame and with short-term wins as well as the long-term wins. So when you look at the people track, there's a number of pieces that need to come to fruition. We need to have a customer-centric culture across the organization. In many cases, customer centricity is considered from the perspective of the people that actually interact with customers, but it's not considered in other parts of the organization. That actually has to change. We have to change the culture so that everyone, no matter where they work in the organization, realizes that this is all about the customer, that we need to serve that customer. And that really does change how we think about things and how we accomplish our work. There may be partners involved. This could be distribution partners, this could be supply chain partners, but they also have to be onboarded, they have to be enabled, they have to understand what their role is in this process. We have to come up with a mechanism to personalize that buyer engagement. And of course, now this starts to get into the area of how are you engaging with your customers? How are you understanding, how are you mapping their life cycle and their journey? And that's part of the process. We need to understand what tools and what technologies need to be enabled and need to be leveraged at what point in the buyer journey, in the buyer process. And all of this requires cross-functional collaboration. We really need to look within the organization and say, how can we speed up that clock speed? How can we increase that clock speed of processes? And by improving our collaboration, we are enabling that process. We can also look at the process track. We start to realize that we talked about, and of course all of these areas overlap, right? There's a people component to all of these things, and there's a governance component and so on. I talked a little bit about the customer lifecycle management before, and what I wanted to do is say, start off by understanding that digital journey. Start off by understanding how you're engaging with the customer. And what you can do is then say, well, within our digital marketing campaigns and our multi-channel campaigns, how do I actually contextualize that experience and leverage data so that I can use the right assets and I can leverage my marketing tools and my digital asset management and my digital marketing campaigns to enable that engagement. And we can measure that. We need to have that view of operational integration, meaning we have to start understanding the workflows and the data flows, because integrated digital marketing really does mean that we have to cut across areas that were traditionally siloed, especially when we look at that customer experience. And with all of this, we can start to build out more advanced business analytics, and that those business analytics and business intelligence are actually cutting across structured and unstructured data and structured and unstructured processes, which is really what's going to drive that digital engagement. So that's the process track. Another key component to the digital transformation roadmap is the technology track. And the technology track contains a number of important components. First of all, we have to start off with an integrated and contextualized information architecture. This means this is a foundational set of organizing principles that ties together structured and unstructured systems, everything from product information management systems to digital asset management to business intelligence to commerce engines to transaction processing systems. When we have that, we have the ability to start to integrate our different platforms. We can use that architecture to integrate the systems that normally were sitting in different groups and different silos. Now, do you have to integrate everything with everything? Not necessarily, but we have to understand where the handoffs are between processes so we can have the right level of integration. With that, we have the ability to integrate our data silos because, again, in order to have that 360-degree view of the customer, we have to pull from lots of different pieces. We have to understand that digital body language, the clickstream analysis, all of those structured and unstructured components so that we know what's working and what's not working. When we have all of those pieces together, now we have the ability to begin to engage in predictive analytics. Predictive data analytics is really leveraging all of those other pieces so we can do lead scoring, so we can do next best action, so we can start to understand what our customer behaviors will be. We know what the propensity to buy will be. We know when a customer is ready to be engaged. Another piece of this is the content track. And we refer to content broadly, so it includes data. So content and data. And the first piece of this is making sure that we have good quality, clean data and content. There's a governance component to that. So we have to cleanse the data and the content. We have to contextualize it. We have to curate it. We have to make sure that we have data standards. When we have that, we have the ability to then manage our digital assets more effectively. We can reuse our assets. We can find those assets. We can retrieve them. We know the value of those assets. We can use them to engage the customer, and we know they're working. With that, we have to have product information management. And so especially with large catalogs, whether it's B2B or B2C, any organization that deals with customers and products needs to have a mechanism for managing that product data so that it can be easily onboarded, so that it can be integrated and maintained and presented to customers, again, in the context of what they need. And when we have all those pieces together, we can optimize search. Search is such an important component to all of this. It allows for internal employees and customers to be able to retrieve the information they need. It allows for the external viewpoint and the external site search to work effectively. So in creating a digital transformation roadmap, we have to look at all of these components. We have to look at the people. We have to look at the process. We have to understand the technology. We have to make sure that the data and the content are clean and managed effectively. And this is not necessarily easy, but it's very doable. I like to say it's complex but not mysterious, and it's an imperative. So you really need to understand the organization's maturity in each of these areas and then lay out the process and the roadmap to get to the new capabilities that are demanded by customers and the marketplace.